Hello and welcome to my Photoshop tutorial where I take apart a picture and show you how I put it together. Basically, I started with this background of these two awesome trees, and the first thing I did was to duplicate the background using Ctrl and J, and here we have it. And you can see it's not quite 100% opacity. If you look up here, it's at 84%. And I went to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, to add just a touch of blur to it to make a subtle change. In fact, if I switch it on and off, you can see just how small that change is. But it's just how I envisioned it and how I wanted. But I wanted a dry stone wall in front of the trees, so I took this picture, and if I show you by disabling the layer mask, this was the picture I took the stone wall from. Using a layer mask and a black brush at 100% opacity, I painted out the parts of the picture that I didn't want to use. I'll put the layer mask back, and there's my wall. Now it doesn't blend yet, but it will do over time. I added a curves layer, which if you go up to layer, new adjustment layer, curves, gives you the curves layer, and you can adjust the effect of it. So I'll just show you here. Raising it, brightening it, a little bit more contrast, the classic S curve. Okay, and that makes it a little bit more of the same in tone throughout the picture. Then I added a gradient fill at the bottom, which darkened the bottom. Again, you go up to to layer, new fill layer, gradient, click OK, and then you have various types of gradient you can use on your image. You pick whichever suits you. Cancel that because I've already done that. Added another gradient here, but this time I had the darker effect at the top, fading out to a neutral at the bottom. I did another curves layer to give it a little bit of a brightness overall, and then I added the model. Now for some reason I've only got the finished version of the model. The original seems to have vanished out of this little stack. Originally she was laying on a bale of hay in a barn, and I used the same method as the stone wall by giving it a layer mask and painting out the bits that I didn't want to be shown, using a Wacom tablet and zooming in to get as better painting effect as I could. When I say painting effect, I mean painting out really. I gave her a little bit of a tilt, but she looks quite out of place there. I'm sure you'll agree at the moment. So the first thing I needed to do was add some shadow. So I put a blank layer underneath her. You can just go down here and click here to add a layer, and I just painted in with some black paint around the edges of her clothing, arms and hair and stuff, and just added in a little bit of shadow there. Not quite at 100% opacity, but just enough to give it a little bit of depth. And then if you come up to the line between the levels and press Alt, you see the little box with the arrow pointing down. I'm not going to click it because it will disable the effect that I've applied, but if you click on that, it will apply the effect on that level just to the layer underneath. If you watch the model now, you can see she's deepened in colour, whereas the backgrounds remain the same. I added in this layer, which is a texture layer, and that affects the picture overall, and I duplicated that layer to give it more of an effect. Layer 7 here, very subtle shift, and that was basically a plain white background, probably from a bit of concrete or something like that, applied, darkens it overall. This one gives a vignette effect. I'll apply it here, and you can see how it's darkened all around the edges but left the model inside pretty much intact. Then I added this spacey picture here. Now you can see how the face has gone purple and blotchy, and there's all these dots and spots all over the model. So I painted them out. If I right click there, enable the layer mask, it's gone. So the effect remains subtle in that it just gives that slight colour shift. But look at this picture, this paper here, this music paper and the note papers, how they've shifted as well in tone and colour. Then I added this city skyline. As an overlay and reduced opacity, and you can just see the bits of buildings poking out through here, just for interest, not for any other sake. It doesn't enhance the picture, but it just gives a little bit of added interest. And then another texture here, which darkens overall just a little, just a smidgen. And then up here I put a little spot on her face. Now it's just a little dab of paint. It was brown. I don't know if I can show it to you. I don't think I can. It was just a little brown spot of paint, about that size, just around her face. I desaturated it, and it just gave a lighting effect on the face only, because it was looking a bit dark, the face. Hue and saturation level, where I've just reduced the saturation slightly. There's a subtle shift. Another curves layer, and here I've adjusted just the red. Click on there, you see the red line there where I've just pulled it down to give it a slightly cooler look. And then I've added a border, and I've done it at normal, opacity 100. I know that's not true, but that's what it's showing here. Oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong thing. Divide, I put it at divide, and opacity at 28%. I'm sure I was telling the truth when I was looking at that, but I had the wrong layer selected. And here I've done another levels layer. Brightened it up a little bit, and another curves layer, and that's the finished picture. I hope you liked it. I hope you were able to follow me. I could barely follow myself, but I hope you was able to follow me. It's about the 20th take, but I hope you enjoyed it, and will join me when I do another one at some point in the near future. Thank you. Goodbye.